Hey guys, welcome back to my Minecraft world. We're in episode 48 now, and we're on version 1.20.6 now. So still no mods because at the time of recording, not enough of my mods that I usually use are available. So I finally just started using the Ilmango dirt to mud machine thing. I've enchanted up an iron shovel because you need a slower shovel for this. So like efficiency 5 silk touch netherite shovel is much too quick. Otherwise you just end up breaking the dirt that you place in here before it can turn to mud. So yeah, I just have this unbreaking 3 and mending on here. So before I get into what I'm actually doing today, I have a couple of quick fixes from previous episodes that I wanted to show you. I've rebuilt my brush 2.0, so I can go back to chipping the flakes off my armadillos. Fire station. I have like a pipe thing in here, and I usually use a certain type of block for the corners. So yeah, I've replaced the corners on here because I used the cut block, and it didn't work as like a corner on the pipes here. Yeah, the iron farm has some more. Oh, I can't zoom. More versions of it here. Yeah, and then there's 2 more things that I was gonna do, but I could only do one because I'm still waiting for the armor stand mod to come back. So the one I can't do right now is there's a vending machine in here that I forgot to put stuff in. And then the one that I did do though was I put in an extra window on this house because this face of the house is looking out onto the sea, and I just feel like it's a selling point, isn't it? Like an ocean view. So didn't put one in here because this is just the garage. Anyway, yeah, some just minor things that I wanted to catch up on before I got too far away from them. So on the last video, this is what I did. I built these like extra little warehouses. I never planned to do this here, so I kind of just came up with this on the fly in order to make a little like dog shelter, get all the new wolf variants. And I made a little armadillo sanctuary. Oh, they were all scared for some reason. Is that because of the door? No, I don't know. Oh, let's see how this is doing actually. 13, fantastic. I think that's probably what it was last time I looked at it, but I've just not been over here to load it in. So yeah, I figured this is like a little warehouse area where there used to be docks here, and this is all that's left. Eventually I'll get to it over here where I'll build like an actual dock, like more like a shipyard thing where stuff gets imported into the town. But yeah, in order to justify this area a bit more, I figured I'd do some more builds over here. And the thing I have in mind is another warehouse that's kind of not used here anymore because these docks are inactive. This dock is inactive. So I figured I'd do another little warehouse over here. And this area is like inactive now because it's just this one little dock. And we've got like the commercial dock will be over there eventually. So there's just some leftover warehouses over here, unused, that have been converted into different businesses and stuff. So my kind of idea in my head is another warehouse along this side, and maybe it'll be like a coffee shop or like shops or offices or something, like another converted warehouse, and maybe another one on this side if I can think of something. But also on the episode before I made these ones, I got a comment. Forgive me, I've forgotten your name, but the comment, I'll put it up on screen, and it was about doing like a build tutorial. So I figured I don't have the like replay mod and stuff to do time lapses and things. So let's do sort of a start to finish. I'll come up with a build and we'll go through it like the way I build and all that sort of stuff. So I guess we'll start with the idea itself. While I'm talking about this, so let's just cut all this down. So I guess we'll start with ideas. I struggle. I like to think of myself as a creative person, but the sort of coming up with an idea in the first place is the thing that I struggle with the most. Same with music. I just like the initial spark for an idea is just something that eludes me like perpetually, and it's endlessly frustrating. So the way I get around it with Minecraft stuff is I try and force myself into a context for something. So one of the sort of principles I follow for builds is something I picked up from Good Times with Scar, and it's giving stuff a story. So like, for instance, with this, it's an old warehouse and it's been converted into a dog shelter. That's enough of a story to sort of dictate its purpose and stuff. Actually, these are probably bad examples because these were just thrown together. Let's go over here a bit. Let's look at the police station. That's a recent build. So, town needs a police station. So a bit of the sort of background of the town, a lot of the architecture is meant to be this sort of Victorian era, like red brick buildings and stuff. And there's like distinct periods in the town where originally the town was founded in sort of medieval-ish, like post-medieval time, when people came from my starter village, which was more medieval. And then there's like hints around the town at the sort of more medieval style. Like I've got some Tudor houses over here that have survived this long and that sort of stuff. And then I want it to be at the time of this sort of experiencing the town now as a player and as a viewer. This is sort of present day. Probably like the main expansion of the town was this sort of Victorian era. So we've got all these sort of buildings. And then as the town has grown, like we've got like vehicles now and stuff. But as the town has grown and has gotten closer to like the current day, there's had to be expansions in the town as well. So we've got like modern expansions onto the old Victorian era hospital. Same with like the faculty building at the school, that sort of stuff. So there's like history to the town that I'm building, that I'm referencing in these different builds and stuff. That's more, I guess, more indicative of like the guiding principles of having a backstory for your town, or for your builds rather. So yeah, that's the idea sort of thing. Like if ever you're sort of struggling for an idea, it helps to have built this sort of framework in your mind about what is it that you're doing. If it's like a one-off build and maybe it's like you're building a farm for something, and like the easiest example is probably like you need to build a wheat farm or something, doing some crops. So dress it up like it's an actual farm, that sort of thing. Right, I do actually want to move this bit of road here so it's in line with this. Right, so the idea, as mentioned, got this warehouse. We're going to convert it into something that's not a warehouse anymore, and maybe it's like a shop or an office or something. So the next thing I do normally is, if I don't have a clear picture of something in my head, which is very rare, that something sort of just happens fully formed when I think of it, the next thing I'll do is I'll go do a Google search for exactly the thing that I'm thinking of. So in this case, I typed in something like warehouse converted into a coffee shop, and a lot of the time I'll just stay with just the search. I won't look at things in like close up because I want to put my own spin on stuff, right? So I will just look at it as like the thumbnail image and like extrapolate in my head what I think is going on in the image. Like I can't see, like, I think the third picture on the top row was like the interior of a cafe, and there's all these like details in the ceiling and stuff going on in like the windows and stuff. And I think there was like a staircase in the background or something. Maybe it's none of that, and the image was just kind of small on my screen, and that's just what I remember of it. So that's my next thing, is I will look at pictures, but I won't hone in on stuff. I want to sort of feed the idea into my head where it can develop. Then I'll do like another search that's similar. So I think I also searched for factory converted coffee shop. Then one of the suggested searches that came up was like shipping container, and that just gave me another idea. So that's kind of where I'm at now, is I've got these Google searches. Like, I've come into this video thinking I'm going to convert a warehouse into a coffee shop and some offices and stuff. But now I've seen these images of like the shipping container stuff, and I'm just like, oh, that's really cool. That's like further developing the idea that I had, right? So now I've got like two ideas for this thing. I've got the warehouse and I've got this shipping container thing. I think of the shipping container thing as like a refinement on the original idea. So now I need a sort of a refinement of the warehouse idea to sort of distinguish the ideas from each other. I've gone, coffee shop is going to be the shipping container. The converted warehouse is going to be some offices, like, and maybe a shop. So yeah, we've got another Google search I did here where I just did office space instead of coffee shop, basically. And then I think the first time I searched it, it was just interior stuff, so I did an exterior search as well. Now I've got the sort of stuff in my head of what I want to build. But the other thing I might do at this stage is I might draw something. If I still can't quite picture something in my head, or if I've got, like, I'm looking at all these images and there's stuff I want to combine from them, then I'll do a sketch. I'm not a particularly good artist. I sort of doodle at best. But it doesn't have to be good because it's not the end product. The end product is going to be the build. So what I'll do is just sketch the shapes that I'm trying to envision that I can't quite piece together in my head, maybe. I'm not going to do that with this because it's quite clear for me, but I'll try and dig this up. I have the iron farm over here, and I'm pretty sure I showed this in the iron farm video, but I took a bunch of images, took bits of each of them that I liked that sort of fit the narrative of the build for me, because I've got like the Victorian era stuff and I've got the modern big grey box here and all this sort of stuff. So I took different bits of the images that I saw and drew them together where I couldn't quite see it, so I had to do it in a way that I could get the idea out quickly. That's what the purpose of the sketch is, really. Is it takes a while to build something in Minecraft, but sometimes I need to just get the idea out so I can envision it, and the quickest way to do that is just to sketch it. So there'll be refinements made building it, like I'll design it in creative or whatever, just because like you have to accommodate for the size of blocks and stuff when you actually get into building it in Minecraft. Anyway, that's enough waffling about that stuff. Now we're at a stage where we're in the game and we have to translate the idea. So if this was creative, I would be doing this. I might use a command to clear the area. So now I've got this like gross area here where it's all just like right angles and stuff, too many straight lines. So I might come in and just sort of round off the corners and stuff. In fact, this is another sort of part of my build philosophy. I don't do too much terraforming when I'm building stuff. Like, this is like as far as it goes usually. I'll cut into the landscape or just neaten up or round off an edge or something. But yeah, that's another thing that kind of informs my builds, is it has to fit the area. So for the most part, the only terraforming I've really done around here is I'll flatten off places so it's just easier to build on. And like, I think when I built this, I did barely any terraforming here. I just sort of molded the terrain up to the edge of the castles and just like neatened it up and like rounded it off. And I do that because, one, I'm lazy and I don't want to like, I don't want to have to like build the terrain that the building goes on and then build the building as well. And 2 is like, I pick where I want to build based on what the terrain and the surroundings look like. So yeah, I thought like, initially when I came to this place, I thought, oh, this is this cool big open space. There's a big hill in the center. That'd be cool to stick a castle on, because then it's like, you have the high ground and you can see further from the castle and stuff. And then we've got like this cool little bay here, which I could turn into a dock and all that sort of stuff. We've got the idea, we've got sort of an image in our head of what we're going to do. So I will do a wall outline. Again, this is something I've got from other builders. And it's just so that like you get an idea of the shape of something in the game and the size of it. Okay, so this is sort of the floor plan. And we've got this like courtyard out here we could do something with. It's a bit too skinny on this side, so let's actually bring it out this wide. So then I'll also try and consider, like, because I'm doing this sort of, these are realistic builds at the moment. This isn't like a fantasy thing like my elf village or something, where I can kind of ignore physics and reality and stuff. Just based on the shape of this now, I would expect maybe this side of the building, because it's got this extra space here. Maybe this is where the stairwell would go, leading up to the different levels. And then there'd be like a corridor maybe down the center here with offices on each side, on the upper floors. Maybe on the ground floor here, this would be where the shop fronts would go. So maybe let's say here's 2 shops, and then this over here will be the entrance to the offices. So let's go here maybe. This will be the door in. And then this is a shop. And this is a shop. And then this will be just the door into the stairwell. And let's go up a floor or 2, depending how big I want to make this. In creative, I might also go up and get an idea of how tall I want the building to be. So, because this is like right next to my village, I'm still going to convert this into something a bit more sort of aesthetically in keeping with the rest of the town. But it's still going to be sort of village sized, I think. So I don't want to make this too big, because then it's going to dwarf all the smaller buildings around it and look kind of out of place. So again, that goes back to sort of forcing myself into a context in which to be creative in, right? I guess I should also mention another thing that I do. This is a thing that I like to do, and I don't think is particularly useful for people who actually want to like be a bit more detail oriented in their builds and stuff. I like to build to the scale of the player, right? So if I just walk over here, like prime example is the size of a door, right? That sort of dictates for me the scale of everything in the game. And like, I know that a block is a meter cubed. My brain is too literal. I can't get past that in my head. Like, if it's a standalone build and it's not something that I will like interact with constantly, then maybe I'd care less about the scale of stuff and go from like building at a bigger scale so you can do more finer detail. Anyway, so okay, now we're at the stage where maybe we've got a wireframe maybe of the build that we're envisioning. Next thing is I would build it entirely without doing any texturing. So for this one, for a change, I'm going to do primarily, it's going to be mud brick. That's why I got all that mud at the start of the episode. And then this kind of follows on from the thing where I was talking about the sketching it just to get it out quicker. I will build it with no texturing just to get the idea out. So like when I built this, I built it all with just bricks. And then I came back in afterwards and like weathered it up a bit with the texturing and stuff. So yeah, I'll go grab some stuff and maybe I'll lay out like a foundation or something. And then, yeah, we'll come back. Okay, it's been a little while and I went a bit overboard. I did more than a foundation. So before I turn around and look at this, I've done the road up a little bit further. Brought all my street stuff. This is all my street boxes I always leave outside my main warehouse. So if you ever wonder why I just have 4 shulker boxes outside my storage building, that's why. Okay, so I've gone back on what I said, and I'm still going to do a shipping container thing over here, but it's going to be more like a food truck kind of thing, only not a truck. I don't know. I have gone ahead and done coffee on this side. So everything's a bit boxy right now because it's all just like I'm building the thing and before I detail it. So one of the things that I wanted to do, I don't know if this was actually in a picture or if it's just how I interpreted one of the pictures. I saw in my head, I guess, this sort of chain link fence around the outside. And in case you've never seen this before or didn't see it in one of my previous videos, my school build, I want this shape, right? In between the sections of fence. So if you stick something on top of the one, it forces the shape of the walls here, so that it adds this extra little layer of detail here, and makes it a little bit taller as well, which is nice. Breaks up the straight line along the top as well. Right, let me just sleep real quick, and then we'll look at what I've done so far. Okay, so starting outside, I've done this little bit of courtyard material instead of taking the the sidewalk material up until the edge of the buildings. This way, it's let me use deep slate here. I don't like the idea of deep slate being my sidewalk and then deep slate straight into the building. So I've got this as kind of like a buffer. Then inside the floors I've done, I imagine it's a warehouse, so it would have been something cheap on the floor, like just concrete. So I just literally did light grey concrete in here. Then in this side, I brought light grey concrete and light grey concrete powder, thinking, oh, I'll do this sort of texturing in the floor over here, and it looked horrible because this is so much lighter than the wetted one. So I just sort of thought I'll just do light grey concrete on this side. So yeah, and then in the middle, got coffee and books. Yeah, so I did a wooden floor in here, and I saw this sort of thing in, I think it's XB Crafted's base this season of Hermitcraft. I think he's done it with lots of different wood types, but I've just done it with 2, just because I only brought so many wood types with me, so I thought I'll just do these 2. And then this is going to be the office building. So I've only done floor up to this bit because this is going to be walled off, because if I can save the materials and not do a room here, I'm going to. And this is just the entrance lobby thing. I might do a desk here, maybe, and have a security guard here who would scan your badge in on the way into the building or something. And maybe it's I don't know, a law office, or maybe there's a tech startup up here or something. And then I've just blocked out the where the stairs might go with wool. And then similarly, over here, this is like a floor plan. This will be a counter, and then these will just be bookshelves and a little display here as well that's viewable through the window. And then in here it'll be, this is the counter. This is my fake little back room. Yeah, there'll just be a door here and to make it look like there's a kitchen area maybe at the back. And then this will be a counter, and then I'll put some, I don't know, maybe just, I'll put a table here maybe, and a chair, and then maybe I'll do two chairs, and a double wide table in the middle here. I've tried out this, like, using the square to make lettering thing. That's fine. Just, I did dark green on dark green, hoping they would be closer, like, in tone. Trying to do, like, a Starbucks thing, maybe? Like, green and whitish. So I went with, like, the palest wood. I don't think that's really worked. Yeah, that's maybe, I use some glow squid ink on here. Because that's not particularly readable, is it? But then it'll be too bright. I don't know. I'll see. I'll see how it goes. But, yeah, so this is where I'm at so far. So the reason I've done these big windows like this is that seems to be, like, the sort of aesthetic I was seeing in those Google searches. Again, like a lot of my town, it's kind of like a more modern look built into something that's old. So that's what that's meant to be. The problem is that this is such a small scale that it's difficult to achieve it. So a lot of the time I rely on my imagination. So I guess this goes in with my build philosophy thing as well. Sometimes it's worth committing to something that feels like a bad idea and seeing it through till you've done it, because this sounds counterintuitive, and honestly I don't follow this advice very regularly, but sometimes you have to realize the full idea before you can decide if it's bad or not, if that makes sense. Like something that feels wrong in the midst of doing it, that's come out wrong. Something that feels like it's not working when you're in the midst of building it, once you've done it on the full scale of the building, it sort of reveals itself as working. So I guess on a sort of more town-wide scale, some of the stuff I've got built around here in isolation looks pretty rubbish. This sort of build palette that I've got going on here, in isolation, it's pretty ugly. I've done my best with shapes and stuff to try and build depth and interest into it. Build these little shapes in there to kind of make things just not so flat. Again, this is also to alleviate me building at a smaller scale. But if I commit to it enough and have enough variation in stuff, I've got it here as well. I've got it in part of the factory here. My library is in this build palette. I've got the school, and then some of the like riverside buildings, I think. Well, this one, but again with a variation on it. And then over here, this building, the hospital. I've done it here as well. Committing to it on scale, which is a weird way of phrasing it when I talk about the scale that I build, but yeah, hopefully I'm making sense. But essentially, committing to an idea and seeing it through to the end can reveal if it's working or not. And if not, then it's Minecraft. You can just tear the thing down, and all you wasted was a little bit of time. But along the way, you might have refined your process or figured out a new technique or something that made it worth it, just seeing the idea through. Hopefully that makes sense. I kind of waffled on a bit there. I guess one other thing to mention, the brick in these little like window alcove things, this is meant to be a callback. I guess this is another example of like committing to a thing. This is a callback to my mud farm, which is where I started the episode off. This is where I was first using mud bricks when they just got added to the game, and I was really struggling with how to pair it with stuff. So yeah, when I get to detailing, maybe I'll bring in some of this jungle wood as well. Sneak that in some places. But yeah, this is my other mainly mud brick building, I guess. I wanted to try and call back to this. Anyway, yeah, I will build the next stage. I'll build the whole sort of outline of the building. We'll see where we're at with that. I mean, having said what I've just said about seeing a thing through to the end, what if I end up scrapping this whole building? I'll be back in a sec with the next update. Okay, I have made some progress. I have finished basically the shell of the building. Typically in buildings like this, like the ground floor will be pretty tall. So I've got well, it's not way taller. It's like an extra 1, 2, 3, 4, probably two blocks taller than I would normally build. And actually the ceiling I have brought down lower than the actual height of the floor above. So yeah, I've slabbed this level, and then there's actually a slab's gap between that slab and the floor up here. But yeah, I've also kept this quite tall as well. I'm not planning to put in a ceiling in here. I'll just leave the roof exposed, nice and open, because again, it's a warehouse. So this will be, I guess, like an open plan office space of some sort. This wall's slightly annoying, but I can't get rid of it because it sort of fits in with the construction here. So yeah, what have I done? I've basically just made a huge rectangle. I brought the wall out 1 block on the top here. And that basically let me be symmetrical on the top level. So everything looks really flat and gross right now because there's no texturing, and actually the next step that I would be doing is to try and put some more shapes in somehow. Part of the sort of struggle building at the scale I like to build at is trying to find ways to add some detail and some depth into stuff when it's all my walls are like 1 block thick. So here's one I like to do a lot. Grab my blocks. Yeah, I like to do this sort of thing. And I might even go out 1 extra. Let's see what, oops, no. So that's one of the tricks I try and use to try and add some extra shapes into stuff, especially with so many flat surfaces like this. The other trick is framing windows and stuff. Here I've done it with walls on the flanks of the windows. Other times I use, let's see if I can spot it somewhere. Here we go. Other times I use stair blocks on the top and bottom. In fact, I was planning to do this over here with this window and the door frame. I do it with doors as well as windows. So there we go. That's another little bit of added extra shaping into the wall there. I hadn't considered doing this till just now, but let's see what this looks like. I don't like it here because I'm trying to do this like more modern thing where it's all straight lines and stuff. And this to me kind of looks like, especially because we've got this thing here which I wish I could get rid of somehow, where we've got the walls kind of extending to meet the glass pane. Kind of makes it look like an arch. And yeah, that's a curve in the design that I don't want. I might actually get rid of this and just leave it open like that. Now that I've seen the exaggerated arch, I've decided to get rid of it altogether. So okay, what else have I done? Okay, so here's a problem that I just run into, and I'm just now realizing it because I'm talking through it like this. So I clearly don't have symmetry between the top floor and the bottom floor, because I've been working off the fact that I've segmented the bottom floor with this extra wall here to make it into individual shops, right? So I've been working on that assumption that this is a room, this is a room, whereas the rest of the building I've kind of got this thing going on. I need to fix it here as well. Surely, originally, the building would be made to reflect the sort of internal structure, which in its inception would have been empty, right? It would have been just a room to store stuff in. What I should do is have where the windows are on the top should match the windows on the bottom. I guess the structure of the bottom floor isn't symmetrical anyway. So maybe I can do it on the back, but I can't do it on the front. So yeah, here's something that I will fix right now. And then here's something that I also try and consider is when I've got windows where the majority of the view outside will be dirt, basically. I tend to just block up the window. So I'll get rid of the panes and just brick it over. Oh, looks like a thunderstorm is about to happen. And I evaded it. Man, I swear I never get thunderstorms, and then the past couple of videos I've had loads of them. Another thing that kind of will sell a build to me when I've kind of not felt great about it along the way is doing the texturing. So let's find an example. So I guess actually, seeing as we're talking about warehouses, I think my original warehouse, my storage room, right? Well, I still struggle with this actually, because I think my texturing game has come along a bit since I built this. It was so just big, flat, and red, and it still is really. But all these little like alcoves and stuff, all these little shapes that are built into these big flat spaces. Yeah, I really tried with this one, and it got to a point where I was kind of happy with it. And I was trying to be inventive with the shapes and stuff. Like, I was trying to get this pattern going. And then it was just basically this tall, all solid. And it just looks stupid. So, yeah, I kind of broke things up and made this little shape here, which kind of mirrors the shape here in the roof. I got the same sort of style window all over the place. And then on this level, I added like the little balcony and stuff to just to add variation, because regardless of how like the details you put in, if they become too uniform, it gets boring. So yeah, that's another trick sometimes, is to change the style of the thing you're doing, but then don't do it randomly. Like this is here on purpose, right? It's like breaking up the taller section of the warehouse here. From above, we can see as well. Something that I've not done on the new warehouse I'm building is having funky shapes in the actual floor plan of the building, and also playing with elevation. Here's an example of that again, is the police station, where like to stop it from just being one big square, I have this extra shape in here, dropping one block of height in the ceiling. And then yeah, we've got the little holding cells bit is like an extra shape on the side here. And this bit, just to break up the profile. This warehouse is absolutely not doing that. In fact, it is a little bit, isn't it? It's doing it with this little bit of sort of extension on the top. Right, so I'm going to try and fit some more shapes in, and sort out that back wall again. And then, yeah, we'll have another look before I move on to texturing. Okay, that didn't take long. I swapped this over, so the stairs facing the other way, so the stairs up normal way, and that sort of gives us this sort of like framing around the window now, where we've got like this portion of the stair at the bottom of the window and at the top, so it kind of gives it like a framing, and then we've got this little shape above the window, which kind of like highlights it, I guess. And then the other thing I did, which I'm not sold on really, is I added these shapes in here to try and break up this thing. But yeah, it's not ideal. I would have liked to have done something like this, but it's only too wide here, so yeah. We'll see. I might get rid of that when it comes to texturing, if the texturing can kind of break this up enough. Similarly, I don't have much opportunity to do more shapes here, and I just copied the same shapes from the other side onto this side, but then I've got this here, which don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I want the window here because I've had to get rid of window in the back, so I'd like to keep the window here, but it's just kind of doesn't fit with all this. But yeah, I will move on now to texturing and see if this kind of alleviates my issues. So the other thing, I've walked past it a bunch now, but the other thing I wanted to mention is this is a dead room. I'm not doing anything with it. And it's big enough and positioned right to be able to have an interior in here, but it serves no function for me, really. So, oh, you know what? Let's bring some of the shape in. Let's do, do I have mud brick walls. Here we go. Let's do some of that. Just for the hell of it. Yeah, so I just put black wool over the windows, so it looks like the lights are turned off in there. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is texturing, and typically I do texturing the same way I've used the shapes, and that is to like break up a monotonous feature of the build, right? So it's all flat and it's all the same block type, so I put in some extra shapes to try and break things up. On top of that, I'll use texturing to do that, so different block types that sort of complement the base block that it's made of. So here it's brick, and I've used granite and rooted dirt as these little gradient patches. And I try and do it deliberately. So that's the other way that I texture, is like deliberate texturing. So I try and find reasons in a build to texture in the places that I texture. Typically when I've got stone brick that I'm working with, I will find little corners and stuff where moisture might collect to put the mossy bricks in. And then I'll put cracked bricks, I'll tend to put them here because the moss is like attacking the stone and the damage is spread, but the moss hasn't got here yet, I guess, or something like that. The other thing that I've recently started to experiment with is shading. That's another like deliberate way of texturing. It's best viewed from afar on this one, so I've tried to stay back. If I zoom in, it kind of ruins the effect. But from a distance, it looks like... Oh, this works better at night as well. But I've tried to put the lighter shades of grey around the windows to make it look like the lights are on in there. And then in the sort of dead spots between windows, I've got it darker, or I've got it darker under like the ledge here where it's all shaded, that sort of thing. And then I guess the extreme version of the deliberate texturing is this, where I've got actual backstory for the castle's been damaged over time, where it's had to defend against something, and the townspeople came to repair the wall, but they don't have the stone resources anymore, so they use the sort of the more modern for the time resources to patch up the wall. The other one I try and do from time to time, if you can try and imagine like a comic strip or a cartoon or a comic maybe, typically you won't draw a wall and have like individual bricks in it, right? It takes too long, it's too noisy in a comic strip or something. So a way around that is to draw a blank space and just put in a few lines like to kind of suggest that the whole thing is made of brick. So I've tried to do that in some places, and I try and do it to kind of pass off stripped jungle logs as if it's stone. So I've got the color of the wall, and then I'm suggesting that it's brick by having patches of texture in it. That one's a bit of a leap of faith with me, I think. And I tried to do it here with the birch, but I don't think it works as well, because birch has the sort of this vertical stripe in it when you put them next to each other, the birch stripped logs, but you don't have it with the jungle one. It all kind of just merges together, so you can get away with it more on the jungle one. Was it successful in my privet drive houses? Because I think this more relies on that it's a recognizable building. I think I said it already, but this is one of those things that can kind of be the missing piece when you're trying to is this build working? I don't know. Should I give up? Try and, even if it's just a section, do the smallest wall on a house or something and see what the texturing looks like. In fact, I'll go grab some extra blocks and we'll do it. We'll texture this wall because it's more symmetrical. And we'll see how it looks. Okay, so it's the next day. It was late in the last clip, so I figured I'll just go to sleep. I'll carry on tomorrow. And I forgot that I was just going to texture one wall. And I kind of just did the whole building. And also I did a couple of extra details and things. So that reminded me of another sort of quality control mechanism thing for when you're not feeling it with a build. Before you tear it down, step away for a bit. Step away for an hour to build something else. Go, I don't know, check on one of your farms or something, or go outside for a little bit. Something. Go make a coffee or something. And then when you come back, hopefully you've done something to distract you enough that when you come back to your build that you're having trouble with, you'll see it in a new perspective. And yeah, so that happened to me today. I came on this morning and I just really hated the shape of this thing. So on top of texturing everything, I added some more shapes on it. So let's get a aerial view to kind of see the shape of this thing now. I've added on a corner, and I've added on this little bit on the back here. So yeah, this was I think I even mentioned it in a previous clip. I've purposely made this just a big rectangle, basically. And ever since saying it out loud, it's just been sort of in the back of my head, annoying me. So yeah, I tried to do a couple of extra shapes onto the build, and I made them different heights as well for some variation. So hold on. I was in the middle. I think I saw this in the Season 9 Hermitcraft World download. This is a nice little air conditioning unit sort of thing. I quite like that, so I decided to steal it. Texturing is done, and I've kind of done the next step that I would do, which is it still flat, basically? And for the most part, I think, no, it's not still flat. I guess this wall over here is the best place to look. So let's get rid of these two trapdoors here. I'm not sold on these actually, but I did put them in as a way to reduce flatness. But this is now, I think, way less boring to look at now that it's all textured and stuff. It's broken up the monotony. This is the biggest continuous block here of mud brick, and it's broken up enough that with the little shapes and the odd block every now and then, that it's not so just flat here's a ton of mud brick in your face sort of thing. But yeah, the corners, put the trapdoors on in this like center parting thing, emphasizes it in a way. And then I needed to do something with the roof. So because it was just like, here's big black shape on the roof sort of thing. So I added a sort of chimney type deal. Maybe this would have been for heating back in the day. But now it's disused because we have like powered heating and air conditioning and stuff. So this is also pushed out a block because I put that extension on here. To make it symmetrical on the outside, I think I talked about this as well already, but to make it symmetrical outside, I've sacrificed it being symmetrical inside. I've also made sure to texture the walls inside as well, where I've got the mud brick walls. And then, yeah, we've got this extra little space up here now as well to do something with. In terms of additional details that I have done, I lit up the signs, which I think that makes them pop more. Well, clearly it makes them pop more being brighter like that. But then also, like with the coffee shop sign, I've left one of these not glow inked, so it looks like one of the letters is like the bulb needs changing or something on the sign. So one thing I wanted to try was doing like a hanging sign thing. Oh, can you not? I was hoping to hang a sign off this, but damn, okay, well, there we go, that's not bad. So yeah, the next step is, does stuff look flat still, even having textured it? And what extra things can I do? So yeah, threw on the extra sign. I've done trapdoors on the corners here. Then another thing I would look at is, what can I do in the surrounding area? Another thing I would do is, like, if you've got a little clearing or something like here, grow a tree or something. I'm not particularly good at custom trees, so I tend to rely on actual Minecraft trees. And I don't like this necessarily. So one of the things I like to do, and it only really works with oak, is I'll do the trick where you force grow the big versions of the tree. So if you don't know about this, you make a pillar next to your tree a block away, and in that space you add torches. I think it works up to 6. I'm not sure on like the limits of this, but yeah, basically there we go. It forces a big tree to grow, and that is mighty close to the building. But I actually kind of like that. That's pretty cool. Okay, that's worked out nicely first try. Usually this takes me a couple of goes because it generates like in the wrong direction or the wrong sort of shape or something. The other thing with the force growing the tree like that, usually it takes quite a lot of bone meal because you have, I guess it's like, I don't know, it takes a lot of attempts to force this sometimes. But yeah, so surroundings. What can you add to the surrounding area? Do you have a clearing like this where maybe instead of a tree, maybe it's like a nice little spot for a break for the workers, for people on their lunch break or something? They can come out and maybe there's a bench here. I didn't want to get rid of this tree, but I think now that I've got the big one here, it makes sense to get rid of this. So this is going, and then I think I will actually put a bench here. Here's another thing that I try and think about as well, is the build that you're next to, is it like the featured thing in the area? And also like what is the area that you're putting it? Like it's more context, right? Typically when I'm doing some bone meal stuff and I'm like trying to make sure the build looks like it's in the place that it is, not just I've cleared a bunch of space and put this thing here. I want it to look like it's been part of the town for a while. I'll do this sort of bone milling near the building where it's hard to get a lawnmower into the corners or something. So, yeah, I'll put grass near the building. But I will almost always take the flowers away. I will want the focus to be the building, not a bunch of flowers which might look a bit out of place, or the colour that they spawn in as might be like, it might clash with a build or something. But who knows? It depends what sort of feel you're going for, I guess. Let's get rid of this. Right, and then the sort of, if all else fails, countermeasure is, and it won't work here, so I'll go, let's just go into the village and demonstrate this one. So if all else fails and you feel like, oh, I've done the texturing, I've done extra shapes and stuff, I've even done an extra pass of adding extra details and things, and I still feel like it's missing something, this is the Minecraft superpower, and should be used sparingly. But you can add leaf blocks, and this can be a bit of a crutch, and I try not to do it. This is why I've said it's like the if all else fails sort of thing. Adding sort of vegetation like ivy or vines or something growing on the side of your build. Even like a window box or something. I think I must have done this all over the place. In fact, I'm pretty sure. Actually, let's do the riverside because I feel like it's a bit more developed. So here's one that I had trouble with. Where's my spyglass? I was really struggling with this building, kind of getting detail on it. So I did a little window box. I had some vines growing, like it's like overgrown out of this little plant box or whatever. Then also had trouble with this one where it was just red and brown. It needed some contrast, so got some green in there with some leaf blocks. Same over here. I've got another plant box thing, like spilling out, overflowing. I've not done it quite that excessively over here, but this is, I guess, the best example of it in the town, maybe. Where, yeah, I just had so much sort of flat space where it was all just like these earthy colours, and it just needed something. And overdoing it with the brick and the granite just kind of, I feel like it doesn't work with the terracotta, but I needed something to give it some texture. Leaf blocks, especially with this sort of block palette, it's such a contrast and adds so much colour that oh, forgot there was lava there, dear me. Yeah. Also, this is like the moss farm, so it kind of fits thematically. Yeah, and I like doing this as well, where it spills over. It sells better with the bushy leaves thing, like from Vanilla Tweaks, because like the bushy bits protrude out and they kind of like make an extra little shape here to connect the blocks together. Yeah, I kind of miss all that stuff right now. So I'm back in my starter village, and here's my starter house. Here's a small example of the leaf blocks thing. This is like a little, I don't know, stuff in the garden, like this corner where the bushes have kind of overgrown and they're starting to climb up the side of the building. And then here's a different version of the window box thing. I've got grass blocks in there. And then I've planted stuff in the window box. I thought I might have had some sort of egregious versions of this, doing the plasterer thing in leaf blocks, which I'm absolutely guilty of doing quite a lot. But I guess I've reined myself in because I'm so aware of it now that I do it a lot, that I was leaning on it, that I guess I haven't done it as much as I thought in this world. Also, it doesn't really fit, right? In a town like this, everything's so sort of not built of stone, or not built in like the countryside. There's like a lot of paved roads and stuff, so yeah, maybe that wouldn't happen here as much. Oh, I've got some in the castle, dirt. So yeah, a bit more here where it's growing along the walls and stuff. And then, yeah, next to this sort of stuff, if I'm doing it on stone brick, I'll shove some mossy stone bricks in there as well, nearby. So it looks like it's infecting the stone as well. So that's the exterior done for the most part. I think I'm pretty much done with it. If I think of something else, I'll share it. But time to move to the interior. So I'll go do that, and then we'll do a walkthrough after. Okay, I'm done with interiors now. Let's start with the coffee shop. In keeping with the Starbucks thing, I've got a buck, I guess, kind of, on a flag, and then sort of coffee cup shape sort of banners. Got a bunch of artwork on the walls. I've got this little fake room in the back, staff room or something. I don't know, but there's that. I've got some cabinets above the like work area at the back. We've got a sink. Normally I would put like a tripwire hook here, but I can't place one here because it's a wall block, not a full block. But yeah, I've got a sink, got the coffee machine here as well. Got some spare cups, more cups, cup of coffee that you're selling at the till, or cash register, whatever. And then got this sort of stuff in the ceiling, that sort of ceiling detail that I was talking about before. Yeah, nothing special, but it gets the job done. Yeah, the thing I try and do, because I always build relatively small, I try and fit in one or two sort of like symbolic pieces. How do I explain this? So years ago, I was listening to a Kevin Smith Batman podcast. I think I might have talked about this in an old video, but he was interviewing Neil Adams, who was a comic book artist, kind of responsible for making Batman dark again in the comics, off the back of like the Adam West TV show Batman, making it all like running around in the daytime with his costume on. Anyway, he was talking about a thing where he was trying to break into the industry, I think, and he was showing people his portfolio, and someone was critiquing a face that he'd done, and he was like, "You've not drawn an eye here, you've drawn like the symbol for an eye. This isn't what an eye actually looks like. You've just drawn like a shape that represents an eye." So he was critiquing his artwork, saying it's not realistic and whatever. But I try and actually do that with Minecraft, because everything is like interpreting this collection of blocks to be what you're labeling it as, right? Hopefully I'm making sense, but like a little symbol for this is a coffee shop, or like a little tableau that reads this is a coffee shop. So we've got like the counter with the coffee machine in the back, that sort of thing, to kind of illustrate that this is what that is. So that's like a way that I get around building at a smaller scale and not being able to necessarily fit in all the stuff that you would expect. Like, I don't know, like in a coffee shop, I think you legally need to have like a public bathroom in a place that serves food and drink. So, yeah, that's something clearly missing from here. Same with like my restaurant. I don't have that there either. But yeah, there's enough of like a symbolic representation of coffee shop. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, next we've got the bookshop. I've just nothing too special again, just a bunch of bookshelves. I would like to put one of my mini blocks here, but yeah, I need to wait for data packs and things to be updated. So yeah, making do with just a book here, but I would like a pile of books as like a display of book of the month or some sort of thing. Yeah, more stuff like beams in the ceiling again. In here we've got the little security desk that I mentioned before, and then just like, I don't know, maybe it's a relatively easy shift, so there's some reading material for the security guard or whatever. Then upstairs we've got an open plan office area, right? So did more stuff in the ceiling, more support beams or whatever, like I don't know what they would be. But then yeah, so I'm envisioning this as sort of like maybe like a tech startup or something. So in the school I've got like the IT labs and some computers and the library and stuff. I would have liked to have put some in here, I think, but again, I need mods and stuff to be updated for that. But then yeah, it's all open plan because it's just the like repurposed warehouse. So got all the little desks around. But then I've got like a group workstation, bigger table, more seats, and then got like I don't know, the boss's desk at the head of the room with some more stuff. And then because I'm thinking like tech startup, I'm thinking like there would just be like a ton of plants everywhere to like keep the air fresh and stuff. Yeah, and then just small bookcases and stuff just to decorate. Nothing special again, but it gets the idea across, right? Hopefully. Yes. Anyway, let's go sleep. And then we'll talk about the next stage. Okay, so the last thing that I do, typically, when I've finished a build, is I will experience it, if that makes sense. Let's go over here. There's something that I did a lot when I was building all these factories and things. I would walk down the road and see if it felt how I wanted it to feel. So it's part of the building to the scale of the player. I need to experience it as a person this size walking through it, right? So the feeling that I wanted from here is like these taller buildings just like being kind of imposing and being a bit claustrophobic. That's part of the reason why I'm annoyed that I made the road so wide, which I mentioned in a previous video. But I think it's more illustrated if I walk through here. Like it's cramped between all these factory buildings, and it's kind of like oppressively narrow and claustrophobic here. But then also I was going for, I wanted to get the feel of everything sort of being industrial over here. And then you get to the end of this corner, and you have like the prettier botanical gardens greenhouse building. Ooh. There's a party going on in there with the sniffers. And then you round the corner, and everything kind of opens up, and it's a bit prettier. We've got all the shops and stuff here. Got a bunch of color and stuff. It's like a shift in tone as you walk around the corner and whatnot. So what's the feel that I want from this bit of the town? Well, it's old warehouses, so I want it to look a bit beat up, and it's being repurposed. So while it's beat up, I want it to look, I don't know, refreshed, maybe that's the word that I'm looking for. Yeah, it's another instance, I guess, of old meets new, where there's like the old building with the modern extension, but this is less so an extension and more so like modern stuff tacked onto the old thing rather than extended, because this is it's a repurposed building, not an expanded one, I guess is what I was trying to think of. I think this kind of works. The light up signs definitely help, and like these colors that are outside of the rest of the build palette kind of sells the idea a lot better. Yeah, I really like how this has turned out, actually. It's really grown on me in the past couple of days, which I guess is part of the point that I was trying to make, was that if you live with the idea for a bit and and let it like settle in, I guess, get used to seeing it as part of your town or whatever you're building. I especially like it from this side because we've got this sort of shape going on here where it's like, let's go a bit further back. Yeah, we've got this sort of shape where it's like from the water, it like curves up kind of, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't know, I just quite like that like kind of slope thing that we've got going on here. I also like to check from a distance how it looks. So there's this thing in mixing music where you'll turn your mix down and play it on low volume, and anything that kind of sticks out to you, like that, typically I find you might have mixed your snare drum too loud or something, and then when you turn the song down, all you can hear is a snare drum over everything else. So you know you need to address that in your mix. It's a way of checking balance and stuff. So this is kind of the same principle, I think, is you turn the volume down, you make it smaller, and you see what sticks out. And I think if this tree wasn't here, the sort of big brown blight on this sea of green would really stick out. But I think having the tree there kind of soothes that a little bit. There will be a couple more buildings over here. I need to do my my little food truck shipping container thing over here, which I've decided to do in another video, or maybe between videos, because this is getting quite long now. I just remembered while I was scoping in, I added a little bit more on the roof here. I added this extra little like aerial and whatever on here. Basically, it's like I don't know, some sort of satellite link, or I don't know, like 5G tower or something. Because it's a tech startup, so they need internet. Yeah, and then the other thing in experiencing it is to consider its place in context. So the context, again, is like, this is warehouse area. Is it sufficiently warehouse-like? And this is maybe a bad example, because these two buildings, I kind of just winged it and didn't plan these out at all. I just needed quick builds to house my 1.20.5 mobs in here. So like I keep talking about context of stuff, and basically it's a way of giving myself limitations within which I can be creative, or try to be at least. I've heard a lot of people talk about this idea with writing music, where essentially it boils down to, if you can do anything, it's kind of difficult to decide on doing something. So I try and give myself a story, and like the context of something, a theme, just anything to kind of just push me in a direction and help inform choices for me, so I don't have to spend ages like worrying like, oh, what can I do here, that sort of thing. So an example is the brick and stone combo with the copper roof. Once I kind of started doing that, it seemed like a thing to do, and it's just kind of informed some of the construction of the town now. So there's a lot of brick with stone buildings everywhere. and the idea of the older buildings being repurposed and rebuilt and stuff. Like I've got this patchwork thing as well. And then not only that, that becomes then its own theme sort of thing. And it gives if you have like an array of builds right next to each other, it can sort of make them live with each other a bit more. And yeah, it gives the place an identity. Okay, so I think that kind of wraps things up a bit. I didn't go over everything. Like, I didn't talk about color theory or using gradients. I only talked about, like, working in a sort of modern-ish town setting. I didn't talk about fantasy builds or like, sci-fi or anything. So if I was to summarize all this, I guess the first thing is shape. Too much of the same thing is boring. So throwing in like an extra block depth on one of the section of wall, or adding on an extra shape on one of the corners or something, or like an extra little roof that's halfway up the side of the building. Stuff like that, just to change the shape of something and make it a little bit more interesting. Then the second bit, which is kind of part of shape, is depth. Try and find ways to put extra depth into your builds. That's something I struggle with a lot, building up the scale that I do. But it's a lot easier when you do walls that are 2 layers thick. Kind of like this, on this building, where, yeah, there's like the main wall here, but then we've got these jutting out bits here, and then also stair blocks and walls and things. Yeah, it just adds these multiple layers of depth to your builds. Yeah, physically deep, not philosophically, I guess. And then the thing that's kind of, I can't even remember if I've talked about this explicitly, but consistency and scale. So I'm not talking now about like the scale that I build at, because I'm kind of referencing the size of the player, but consistency within the build itself, but also consistency to the surrounding buildings, surrounding terrain and stuff. So like I've got these towers in my castle. It's a tower, it's meant to look tall. If I started building like regular houses and stuff at comparable size to the tower, it now makes my castle tall towers look short, or it makes the houses look gigantic. That sort of thing. So the last thing, which again builds off the last thing, is context. Everything is viewed in relation to the stuff that's around it. So I haven't built this in like a flat world in creative. I've built it in a town where I've got all this other like lore and backstory and stuff, and all these different like ideas and like pre-existing architecture and stuff that's informed the design of this. And limitations force you into a corner where you have to come up with a creative solution. So yeah, context. Okay, so I think that's kind of it for the tutorial-y section. This has been quite a challenging video for me to make. It's been really interesting to sort of analyze myself like this. And this hasn't really been a traditional build tutorial, but hopefully it's been useful and valuable in some way. But if you want me to do a more specific build tutorial, maybe going over a build that I've done in the past, or maybe you want me to be a bit more concise on specific topics or something that I mentioned or something that I glossed over that you want me to go in more detail about, or maybe there's some style or something that you want me to have a go at, see what it would look like if I put my spin on something. Please let me know. And let me know if this was actually useful. It's difficult sometimes to see like people who can really build, and they can achieve so much of the stuff that I find so challenging to even approximate it. But people can do the most intricate, detailed, like realistic looking stuff in Minecraft, but they build it like twice the scale, or even like 1.5 times scale. It just, there's something in my brain that doesn't let me, it just makes me feel like, this is a cop-out or something. Maybe that's something I need to work on. Maybe I need Minecraft therapy or something. But I don't know, it just, the way it suits my sort of in-game sensibilities to build at the scale that I do. Yeah, so hopefully this was actually of value. But even if it wasn't, got a new build out of it, which I am actually kind of proud of. Anyway, next video will be episode 49. And hopefully soon mods will get updated, so I can get my schematic over here from my creative world. And I'm hoping to fill in this space with the town hall. So it's going to be a kind of a big one. And a nice lead in, like a nice little sort of milestone build as a lead in for like a big episode 50. Episode 50 is proving to be a gargantuan undertaking. So it might end up being a little while between episodes 49 and 50. But I'm hoping it'll be worth it. It's going to be kind of in the same vein as episode 25, where it was just, here's tons of lore. I'm really excited about episode 50. It's going to be something quite significantly different from any of the stuff I've built here. It's going to be very lore rich for the sort of, again, context of the world that I'm building. Anyway, that's all I've got for this video, guys. If you wouldn't mind helping me out, maybe you could leave a like on the video. Again, leave any suggestions or any feedback, or if you've got any questions about stuff that I talked about, please leave a comment. If you want to join me on my world building journey, maybe you could hit subscribe as well. And yeah, that's everything for this one, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.